So, an interesting question came up after my recent episode about some basic strategies to get started on Instagram, which is, should you be using your firm name and branding or your personal name and branding? My name's Chris Hargraves. This is Digital Marketing Mastery for Lawyers, and you can find it at digitalmarketingforlawyers.com as well as some other stuff. We will start talking about the individual platforms a bit, but I thought I'd sort of segue into this question because it relates to my immediate past episode a little bit. If you are going to use Instagram for business purposes as a lawyer, and you are largely the controlling mind of your firm, say, should you be using a branded firm Instagram account, or should you be using a personal Joe Blogs Instagram account? And I don't think there's a precisely correct answer to this, I should say. My preference, for a number of reasons I will explain, is I think you're better off using a personal account rather than a branded account. There are a number of reasons for that. So the first is, unlike on a number of platforms, there is essentially no difference between the two. It's not like on LinkedIn where you have a company page and then a personal profile, and there's actual functional differences between them. There is no such difference on Instagram. Now, slight caveat to that, if you are going to hook up your Instagram account to a Facebook account, and the Facebook account is your firm branded page, but your Instagram account is personal, and you're going to run ads on that against your Facebook page, that is, you set the campaign up in Facebook and you run it and you click the Instagram box and say, run these on Instagram. If those are connected, this might create a little bit of a mismatch or a disjoint between what people are expecting from your personal branded Instagram and what they are expecting from your firm branded Instagram. So bear that in mind. But of course, there is nothing stopping you from also having a firm Instagram account. Most people don't want more than one, but you can, so it's not a big issue. That's issue number one, which is there's no functional difference. Issue number two is about personal connection. So you probably have noticed, as everyone else has noticed, that personal accounts, despite their lack of advertising capacity on the LinkedIn platform, for example, are significantly easier to develop relationships with people from. You've got greater options about commenting, and people just respond better to other people than they do to brands, basically. So you're going to get a lot more traction from your personal account. The reason is because it's more personal. It's personable. People want to get to know people. They don't really want to invest time in getting to know a brand. And Instagram is no different. As a personal platform where you're probably sharing somewhat personal things, or at least things that you hope are personal to your audience, or you are engaging in conversation if you're using those strategies that I spoke about recently, then it's going to be harder to get traction with that, I think, from a brand page. Not impossible, depending on what your brand is, but just harder, especially if you're just getting into Instagram. So that's the second reason. I think the personality factor is there. The third reason, of course, is that you might leave and someone else might take over the firm, or you might sell it. And the question is, well, what then happens with the Instagram account? If it's your personal account and you've just been putting personal things on there, then as well with a business direction, then it's kind of your asset. Now, you've got to be careful how you treat these things and how you're going to factor it into your books and records, of course, but that's a conversation for another day. For now, if you treat it as your personal account, which you are using for personal branding and networking and business development, that is going to get you better results, I think, in the short term. But from a partnership perspective, if your firm grows, I actually think it's better that each partner independently uses the LinkedIn platform for themselves within their space, within their work group, within their particular area of influence, because that's going to be a much more targeted and streamlined approach to networking and brand building than if you have a single logo-driven law firm Instagram page where you're trying to actually flatten out across a number of different areas. So while at the moment you might be a single practitioner and there might be no effective difference between those two things, if you grow, or if you take on a partner or 2 or 3 or 4, what happens then? It's very hard to build up an audience of people who might be interested in intellectual property, say, or things like that, and then bring in a conveyancing practice and a taxation practice and a personal injuries practice or something like that. You're going to have then a disparate number of areas with not a lot of overlap. And running each of them from a single Instagram account is actually going to be quite difficult if you're using targeted engagement strategies rather than just trying to broadcast with a million different hashtags all the time. So those are my thoughts. Like I said, I don't think this is a strategy killer. That is, if you go with the branded firm page, there's no particular reason you can't succeed on LinkedIn. I just think the personal page has a few more options to it. My time is up, and it's time for me to say goodbye. I know you miss me every time, but it does have to happen now and then. And so in order to ensure that you can see me again soon, make sure you're clicking like and subscribe and commenting and all of those things. And I shall see you next time.